And I think we're live. Hello, everyone. It seems to be working just fine, which is a bit surprising because we almost didn't make it because my internet was MIA for most of the day. So yay, I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Nicki, for putting up with the whole shebang of is there or isn't there a live stream today. And,
not a problem.
Let's do some quick introductions for the people just joining us now and who have no idea who we are and what we're talking about. So yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So for those who don't know me, my name is Nicki and I write fiction as Nicki J. Markus and LGBT fiction as Astrid Donia, and I'm also a freelance literary editor. And obviously today we're here talking genre talk and we're doing sci-fi. So I'll let Alina do a little intro as well.
Hi everyone, if you're new to my channel, my name is Alina. I'm a genre fiction author, born and raised in Romania, and yes, I am into sci-fi more than I am into vampires apparently, which is strange because I'm really into vampires. We've been doing these genre talks for a few months now, and please feel free to check out all the other talks we did in oh my God, words, I can't. I'm sorry.
Previous months. Just say previous months.
Watch the previous episodes in Genre Talk. That's what I was going for. I will make sure to link them in the description down below because obviously I forgot, but there's a playlist dedicated to them and I will link it in the info bar and at the end of this post stream so you can watch it. Or you just can Google Genre Talk with Nicki J. Markus and Alina Popescu, and all of them will pop up for you because I've been lazy. I'm sorry, it's been a rough day. I'm usually more together than this. Like
everyone believes you.
Slightly more sorted out. Slightly. I should just give up now. It's okay. So just FYI, before we begin, I mean, my first experience with any sort of genre fiction was with sci-fi. So if I fangirl a lot throughout this conversation, that's why. Easy peasy. So yeah, let's get started. Tell me, Nicki, when did you first encounter alien species? I mean, sci-fi.
Well, I should say something like when I met my husband or something, shouldn't I?
Oh God, that would be a good one. I'm pretty sure my boyfriend is a sort of an alien species, so I mean, I shouldn't speak about that.
Although, yeah, I mean, we joke about it, but in some ways it's true, because I always assumed that I would end up with a guy who loved books and all the music and theatre and all the things I loved, and I ended up marrying a scientist. So yeah. It's very much an opposite attracts kind of thing. And it's going to be an interesting talk today, I think, Alina, because obviously I know you're a big sci-fi fan, and I'm not so much. As you'll see, as we move through the questions, you'll see I am when we get to talking about film and TV, and you'll probably have to rein me in a bit then. But when it comes to the books, not so much. And I think the problem I have with it is I don't like what I guess you'd call hard sci-fi. Yeah. So I don't mind sci-fi comedy, don't mind sci-fi with a bit of romance, but I have a perfect example book actually here to demonstrate what I don't like. And that's nothing against poor Neil Stevenson. This name here. Now, this book I got free. It was a book exchange I did with a few of us from the Goodreads Australian readers group, got together in Adelaide for a meet and greet kind of thing. And we did a mystery book swap. So we all wrapped up books in plain paper, did a swap. And I got this sucker, like this huge monstrosity of a thing, 900 odd pages of sci-fi. I got through it.
Nice.
This kind of epitomizes what I don't like, and it's that in between all the action, there were these pages and pages of all this technical gobbledygook to me about how stuff was working and, you know, and all the science behind it. And that just loses me. And I found myself slipping through until I saw some dialogue come back in, and I was like, right, I'll pick up the story again there. And I think that's where it loses me, sci-fi.
I think that's just bad writing. Because I know I'm trying to let me just search it, because I always mess up the. Let me just get the title, because I always okay, Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke, which is super hard sci-fi. It's as realistic as it can be, and it has very realistic scientists. I mean, unlike most movies and a lot of books where all scientists are kind of stupid and don't know how science works. These people know what they're doing, but the thing is, it describes things in a way that you realize just how accurate it is, without making you feel like there's just too much science in it.
Sure.
Because the ship they find is kind of like this cylinder, and you look up and see oceans and things like that.
Right.
And you do realize that's because it's rotating, because they need gravity, artificial gravity, and stuff like that. Yeah. But, you know, and all the people who are selected to investigate this strange ship, they know what they're doing, which is rare if we're talking about things we don't like in sci-fi. So I do know most people don't enjoy hard sci-fi as much, because it can get technical.
Yes.
It can get technical, but I think there are ways of being hardcore hard sci-fi and very accurate, without turning it into a science compendium.
Sure.
I mean, if you know of the Warhammer universe, which is like, I think it's for games and stuff like that. They actually took into account the way time works when you travel through space for hundreds of years. And if you go back to where you started, it would be like 10,000 years later and things like that. And it's a very sci-fi fantasy sort of a universe, if you think about it. And they can still be on the hard sci-fi side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it. I mean, you can have explosions in space and not have sound to them, because there's no sound in space.
Yes.
And you don't have to explain the science behind there being no sound in space. That's my point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think softer sci-fi is easier to digest, because when people get into hard sci-fi, some authors just go so deep into the science that it can get boring. I understand that. But then there are absolutely amazing stories like Everything Asimov, right? Which I think is kind of hard sci-fi, if you ask me.
Yes, I've read one or two pieces of his stuff, some of the shorter pieces, but I haven't tackled any of the big stuff. I mean, Arthur C. Clarke, I don't, from the top of my head, I don't think, although I obviously know his name, I don't think I've read anything of his so far.
I just dived into Rendezvous with Rama because my boyfriend recommended it. And going back to Alien Species, because I mentioned my boyfriend.
Boyfriends, yeah.
You said you wanted someone who loves books and stuff, and I got someone who's into books and narratives and creating stories, although he prefers them into a gaming setting, as in writing narrative-based games.
Yes.
And you'd think that because we enjoy the same things, we're not that much of an opposite attract situation. You'd be wrong. Really wrong. You can find someone who enjoys the same things and still feel like you're aliens.
Yeah.
It's fine. So we already talked a bit about things we like and we don't like. So do you want to maybe expand on the tropes we enjoy and the types of sci-fi we prefer?
Yeah. So I mean, the stuff I've read. I'm a huge fan of sci-fi comedy, so I'll wave my very battered and well-loved copy of Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
That's one I have on my TBR. I haven't read that, and I feel like I'm losing out.
So good. And I mean, it's a trilogy that became 5 books. So there's even a little joke on the cover. This is the first 4, and it says a trilogy in 4 parts on the cover. And then Mostly Harmless came along, which was, and it says here on the bottom of this one, the 5th book in the increasingly inaccurately named The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy. And then I just bought one. Alina knows I'm a huge Red Dwarf fan as well, and they did do some tie-in books. This is just one of the 4 tie-in books they did for Red Dwarf, which again I really love. In terms of moving on, I mean, obviously Douglas Adams, I've read Dirk Gently as well, which is almost a kind of fantasy sci-fi in a way. I'm never quite sure what to call Dirk Gently, but and I've obviously read a few of the real classics, the H.G. Wells, Jules Verne kind of things. But the only other type of sci-fi I'd say I really read is that I've started to read a little bit of gay romance, sci-fi, just from having worked with authors who write it. So obviously we got Alina's Flyer Chronicles, of which I've read the first one, and I still need to continue now they're out in space and get a bit more into that.
You know, you could remind me at the end of this to send you a review copy.
Yes, I'll carry on.
Wait, I keep saying I'm going to send you one, and then I never do because I forget. I've got everything sorted out, guys. I'm great.
And I guess there's maybe 3 more names I'd mention in that respect. So my friend L.V. Lloyd, I've got one of her books here, and she writes gay science fiction romance, and lots of her stuff's space-based.
I think I've read some from L.V. Lloyd, but not a lot. I still have to. So
I've only read 2. There's this one and one other one. But I know her because she lives fairly local to me, so I have met her.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes. And also Anne Butler. Now, I've only read one. I know, Alina, I'll probably leave it to you to talk about this one because I'm sure you'll be mentioning it. The Taking Shield. I've only read the first one, and it took me a little while to get into it.
Yes,
but I did. In the end, I did.
I was the same way. Like the reason why I didn't feel it as much as someone else would was because Gerfalcon was not my first one. So the first book in the Taking Shield series was not my first Anne Butler. Anna Butler. I think it's called Flashwire, the one I read.
Okay.
It's also sci-fi, also kind of in space. And I've read that. It's a shorter work. And I really loved her style. So then when I started Taking Shield, I had a lot more patience with the first part that I think was it moved a bit slow, but it made sense to move that slow later in the series.
Yes, sure.
And then I breezed through the rest of the series, like kind of like I had to stop myself from reading more because I knew it would be a while before book 5 came out.
Yeah.
And I still somehow managed to binge through books 2 to 4. And now I've gotten book 5 and I'm reading like 50 pages at a time because I know it's the last one in the series.
Favorite. Yeah.
It's an amazing sci-fi series. It's a military sort of story, kind of space opera. I love that the romance is a normal part of life and that the characters have other things going on. There's more than the romance.
Yes.
I really like how pretty much 360 their life is. You see everything, like their career, their family, their friends, their lovers, everything is brought forward. I don't know if you get this complete image of a character. And what I find very interesting about this series is that the alien species they're fighting is truly alien.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no connection at all with humanoids of any sort. And I really enjoy the political system and all the political scheming that goes on in the series, which is a lot more prevalent in the subsequent books.
Right.
I really love that. And yeah, it's a great series. I love series like that where it's not just something that is set up in space, but you don't feel like it's sci-fi, because it could, I mean, if you took that story and it happened in a contemporary setting, nothing would be different. That's what I don't enjoy that much about some sci-fi. I do tend to prefer series or standalones, it doesn't matter, where you have a lot of information about the world, its history, politics, things like that. My first sci-fi series that I read was Dune, and that's kind of in the same general direction of exploring everything there is in the world, with different species, interspecies relationships, or different countries or colonies, as it happens in Taking Shield. I really love that sort of story, and that's why I loved Red Rising a lot, which I read the Red Rising series. It was a trilogy back then, because I think there's a problem with people thinking they'll write trilogies and then they keep going.
The story takes off. Yeah.
To be fair, the main story, the first story arc was a trilogy, and then they jumped to other happenings in the same universe. It's the same way. It has a really clear historical and technological evolution of the human race. The philosophy and how it evolves, the principles, everything is very interesting. And I liked something that was kind of particular to this series is that there's not a black and white situation, if you will. You have this character that's pretty much doing sort of undercover work with his enemies, and you realize as things go on that he respects them and their way of thinking and some of their accomplishment. And I liked it that it didn't paint everyone with the same brush. I mean, we are good, they are bad, everything at once. And I really did not expect that from what I later discovered was a really popular series. To be honest, the only problem I have with Red Rising is that it's considered YA. And that to me is insane. I don't see that as YA. To be fair, the character is 16 when the book starts. I think he's already an adult by the end of the book, based on our way of looking at age. But when the story starts, Darrow is 16. He is married and has a very dangerous and adult job. I mean, at 16, he would not be considered a teenager.
Yes.
Especially not with how their technology works and the way they speed up pregnancies and things like that.
Right.
I would not consider that a YA book. Besides, in book 2, I think he's already 19 or 20, something like that. So clearly not YA. But yeah, I understand the marketing perspective. So yeah, that's the kind of sci-fi I adore the most. When there's a bit of, I mean, the action is great, the fighting scenes I adore. But if you give me more of an in-depth analysis of how the world evolved, what's going on now, relationships at all levels, then I'm hooked. I'm completely hooked.
Sure.
And on the side of things I don't like, I mentioned it before, people who are supposed to be experts and seemingly know nothing about the subject they're experts in, or things that don't make sense, and things that are not explained. When you're thrown into a world which clearly in a few hundred years has evolved very differently from the Earth you're used to, and there's no explanation as to why. That kind of irks me, especially if it's not the first book in the series. I mean, you're not going to explore anything after that. It's a standalone, and you have no explanation. You just have to take it as it is, that this is how things work, and whatever. Plus, I kind of tend to figure out inconsistencies. And if you're not using a certain type of technology, which will make some things possible, and then you act as if those things were possible or didn't matter, I kind of get annoyed and get thrown out of the story.
Sure.
But I think, I mean, it's more prevalent in sci-fi, I think, that in any genre, but I don't think it would be more tolerable in a different story. I think it would be the same with historical fiction if they just completely got it wrong. So yeah, but that said, I have no problem to go super soft sci-fi and have things that are not scientifically possible, like faster than light travel.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. If you go with hyperspace or subspace or whatever you want to, just to facilitate that without impacting your timeline, I'm fine. I can suspend my disbelief. It's no problem. But it kind of needs to be consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you read Hitchhiker, which you've got to read because it is so funny.
I have to.
It's, I mean, that's not hard science. It really is comedy. And in fact, my whole joke would have been wasted because I had as you haven't read it, because I was intending to like wander in and start the stream with a towel around my neck, but that joke would be like completely missed if you haven't read it. So you would have just been thinking, what the hell is like Nicki wearing?
I mean, 42 is from the Hitchhiker's Guide, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's the only thing I know.
Life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah, that's all I know. That's all I know. The 42 is the only thing I know, and I really want to read it. Surprisingly, I did not expect that, but Space Odyssey is super hard sci-fi. And the way they built everything is so accurate, and they had no clue there were no spaceships at that point. I was super impressed with that. Also, then I found out it's based on a book, and maybe I should read that.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't read the book.
Yeah, I've seen the movie, and I want to see it again because I feel it's the sort of movie you have to see a few times until you get at least part of the meaning, and of the hidden things, which I love. I mean, you don't get that as much now. Like in modern movies, they have to hit you over the head with how smart they are with their metaphors. I mean, thank you. I know who Lazarus is. You don't have to explain it to me 10 million times. It's fine. I understand why people need to do that, but yeah. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned it, are you more into the sci-fi fantasy blend than pure sci-fi?
Yes, I would say probably, yeah. I mean, when we talk about films and that in a minute, there's stuff I watch in that kind of area that would be pure sci-fi, but definitely in the reading, yes, I do prefer, rather than that absolute solid sci-fi, I like the sci-fi that's got that bit of fantasy blend. I don't care if the science, like, unlike you, I wouldn't know if the science is wrong, honestly. I mean, I did GCSE science up to like age 16 at school, got a double B, don't know how. And since then, pretty much nothing. So to me, like, I wouldn't pick up probably, unless it was, ridiculously obvious, I wouldn't pick up on that science. So that doesn't really worry me if it's completely make-believe and doesn't make sense at all, as long as I'm enjoying the story.
I think I'm more attuned to things like that because I'm trying to do a lot of research, so that when I go off script and do things that aren't possible, I want to do it knowingly. Yes, and I want to know like the scientific basis for everything, and then it's the same as it would be with writing. It's great to know the rules and then break them.
Yes,
Rather than trying to write without knowing the rules and breaking them because you don't know any better. That's where I'm going with that. But speaking of fantasy and sci-fi and this blend, you know the theory that Game of Thrones is actually sci-fi?
No, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. It's because of everything else George R.R. Martin has been writing. in his
right.
long life, which we hope will be longer, so that he finishes this series.
Finally finishes, yes.
One of the things is the comet, the red comet.
Right.
Because that exists in other short stories, and when that comet travels closer to a certain world, it impacts the world, and they get psionic powers and things like that.
Okay.
Which kind of happens in Game of Thrones, and because if you look at how the winter comes and goes and how long it lasts, there are people who say it's quite possible to be the result of a post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear war world.
Right.
And a lot of other names of places that are kind of very similar to places in other stories that were sci-fi.
Okay.
So
I actually have another George R.R. Martin one sitting here to read, which I will get to eventually. Although that's not sci-fi or fantasy, it's more paranormal. It's a vampire story. So I'll have to see what that one's like.
I know that one.
Fever Dream, I think.
Fever Dream, yeah. I want to read that. Apparently, it's really good.
It's sitting on my to-be-read pile, but I will get to it in the next couple of months, probably.
I'm trying to find the one I've read. It's a short story, and I'm trying to get the exact name. Yes, give me the full one. What the hell is this? Short fiction. Let's see if it's here. His site is kind of annoying. No, this is not it.
George R.R. Martin, fix your website. It's obviously not user-friendly.
I mean, it kind of is. I'm trying to find it, but no. I'm going to go to the trusty Wikipedia page. Because they have lists. And I'll find it there. Midhouse Man, I think. I'm not sure, and I don't want to mess up the title, but that short story hit me so hard. I thought it was absolutely amazing and so nicely done.
Okay.
I'll find it eventually. We can switch to something else. It's fine.
Well, now as we've sort of made a bit of a Game of Thrones link up, do we want to swap and have a quick films and TV?
Yeah, definitely.
Talk? Is that a good segue?
Definitely.
So, yeah, I mean, as I said at the start, in terms of films and TV, I'm much more into sci-fi than from a book point of view. So, I mean, obviously, we've mentioned my beloved Red Dwarf, which I adore. Can't go past Red Dwarf. And, of course, Hitchhikers again. And, I mean, I remember the old TV version, the UK TV version of Hitchhikers, where one of the characters, Alina, has a second head. And in this old TV version, I think it's from the 80s, and you could see it was just like a plastic thing like stuck in his costume, and it would just like bob up and down with this like really dodgy like fake latex mask expression.
Oh wow.
And yeah, in some ways I actually like that funny little TV version better than the film version, although the film version has its merits. I mean, Martin Freeman was perfectly cast as Arthur Dent. That was just a spot-on role for him. But there's actually things I like about the film and things I like about the TV version. And if they could just blend them together, it'd be perfect. And there was also a really good radio show. So I enjoy that. So, you know, Red Dwarf, Hitchhikers is all the comic side. But and Dirk Gently, of course, he's on Netflix now, which has been really good as well.
I do like. I read that to my to-see list.
Yeah, it's worth watching. It's a little bit crazy, but once you get into it, it's good. Obviously Star Wars. I've never been a big Star Trek fan. I've watched a few. I've seen all the original series, obviously the TV, and I've seen some of the original films, but I have enjoyed the newer films. And I did watch Discovery just because I like Jason Isaacs, and I did quite get into that one. But I've never really been a huge Star Trek fan. But Star Wars, definitely, I really enjoy. Stuff like Firefly and then Serendipity. And I've got a friend who's really angry at me, actually. And every time I mention it, she has nearly an hysterical fit because I watched Serendipity before I saw Firefly. And she's a huge Firefly fan. And she gets really, really, like, upset that I did it in the wrong order. Oh. But I enjoyed Serendipity, and that's what made me go, oh, I should watch Firefly. But I mean, I like films like Ex Machina. Ready Player One recently was brilliant. I do love a good pop culture reference, and that was just like chock full of pop culture. Blade Runner. I don't know if you've seen it, Alina. There's a show called Black Mirror. It's a UK show.
Yes, I liked it as long as it was a British show. The moment they started doing the US episodes.
Yes.
But it's one of those shows that I can watch one episode at a time. It's very dark.
You don't have to sit and binge the series.
And you can't. I mean, it breaks your heart. You'll go insane. Don't do it.
And I mean, going back in time, I don't know if you've ever seen Quantum Leap.
Did you
ever get that?
Oh, yeah. God, I've seen
good
so
old
many
Quantum
episodes
Leap.
of that.
How awesome was Quantum Leap?
I mean, I was never a fan, but I watched it because there wasn't much else.
It's one of those things that so many shows I watched because they used to be on around tea time on a weekend. So you used to sit around with the family and have dinner like on your TV tray on your lap and like watch whatever was on. And
this was like an afternoon show here, and we had an episode a day during the week, Monday to Thursday. And I watched it because there was nothing else at that time, like I said. And I kind of like it, but I don't like.
You're not loving
that much.
Yeah,
I don't like the actor.
It used to be amusing. It was good fun, especially when the actor was a woman. And
it was super fun from that perspective, but I couldn't stand his face. I mean,
Poor Scott Bakula.
No, Scott Bakula is not a favorite of mine, so there was just too much of him in the show. It's not like I think he's not a good actor or anything. I don't know. There's something about his face that rubs me the wrong way.
One I watched recently on Netflix I really enjoyed was Altered Carbon.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's absolutely brilliant. I've loved it.
I know that's based on a book, so I might have to check out the book of that one. I really enjoyed that, and the fact the guy in the lead was pretty hot. Is it Josh Kinnear or something? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hoping if they make a season 2, I hope he goes back to his actual body because I think that body was hotter.
So yes, I mean I could talk about lots of shows. Stranger Things has obviously been really good as well. I used to like the X-Files, but I liked the X-Files up until about season 4, and then I kind of it lost it for me. It just went a bit all over the place. But the early episodes, where it was more like an episode story before they just went that whole big ongoing drama, I really enjoyed. But I mean, otherwise, don't like Predator. Do like Alien.
Yeah, I've liked them. I mean, I've loved the original Predator. I think Predator 2 was okay too, but after that, the newer ones I did not enjoy at all.
Yeah, I don't. Just doesn't really do anything for me. And Corey and I have an argument, my husband, because he likes Predator best. And when it's a Predator versus Alien scenario, I'm always convinced that the Alien would win. And the only reason the Predator won in that movie was because he ganged up 2 against 1 with that human. I mean, that was unfair odds. So we have a little bit of an ongoing argument about who would win between the two. But I mean, I have been enjoying the new Aliens, which I know is a little bit of a controversial comment. I know not everyone does, but Michael Fassbender has a lot to do with that, but don't judge.
Yes.
I like his character.
I like the first new one, the first 3, but I like Prometheus more than
Yes.
the next one, because in the next one it was just stupid. Like the whole plot was like, oh no, why did you have to make him insane? Like, why?
I am interested to see how they're going to tie it up, because there's still meant to be one more that's going to link up then to the original. So I'm interested to see how they're going to sort of just finish it off and link back to that first film. But we'll see.
Yeah,
but those are a few of mine. And I'll let you say some of yours.
So I was a Trekkie fan because that was the first sci-fi series aired in Romania. We started with Next Generation, and that was amazing to me. It was absolutely brilliant. I've watched some of the older series, and I've watched the movies. They were okay. I did not watch the new show because to me that had nothing to do with the actual philosophy and everything in Star Trek. So
yeah,
I just didn't want to see it. It did not appeal to me. I did enjoy Star Wars some. I enjoyed the old movies. I first saw the prequels, so I had no reference. So I disliked them less than anyone who'd seen the movies.
Yes.
Then I've seen the original movies and realized why the prequels were so insane. Although they could have been really good if they had a bit more focus on different things. And then I enjoyed The Force Awakens. I did not think it was the best movie ever, but it was a good Star Wars movie.
Yes. Yeah.
After a lot of bad Star Wars movies.
Yes.
So I enjoyed it. Heck, I did my nails Star Wars themed to see them, to see the movie. And I've seen the movie right after seeing the old ones.
Yes.
So maybe the odds were kind of stacked against it because it kind of reused the plot from the old ones. But anyway, I enjoyed it. Then Rogue One happened and I was like, I do not understand these characters. She's a rogue. Why? You've told me she's a rogue. You've not shown me in any way that she's rebellious.
Yeah.
Also, she's obnoxious. I do not understand.
She was rather, yeah.
I do not understand where the love story came from, and so many things just did not make sense. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I did not enjoy it. And then when the latest one came on, I was like, oh, brother, no. I mean, it looked like the kind of movie where the director wanted to make sure nothing they set up in the first one would lead anywhere. That's exactly what happened. There was this huge mystery about her parents. Nothing mattered. Like, they cut it off, like, all that. It was like, okay, so then why did you set up everything in the first movie just to make it useless in this one? It's so stupid. I mean, I appreciate your level of trolling. I do appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. But then it's like, you know that rule when if you show a gun in the first act, you might use it.
The Chekhov. Yeah, the Chekhov rule. Yes.
Yeah, that one. It's like they describe so many guns and then nothing.
But on the plus side, Raylo.
I do not like Raylo. I do not like Raylo at all. I do not like Raylo.
Our friendship's over.
I'm sorry, it makes absolutely no sense to me. The way they made it, it's like it could have been good. It could have been really good, but then, oh, I'm going to be on your side and then turn bad again because I can't decide if I'm good or bad. And if I decide on it now, then we have no plot for the next movie. You know?
You see, if I'd been her and he'd held out his hand and said, you know, come with me. She wants to save her friends. I would have just been like, yeah, okay. So now that we're going to rule the galaxy together, we can just save those people, can't we? And he would have been like, yeah, okay, then you've come with me. Fine. Yeah. And then she could have just gone, see you later. Afterwards, you know. Missed opportunity.
I mean, like it could have gone in so many ways, and been so much better, and it wasn't. Also, the whole projection of the Force, and oh, I'm not here, really? You're fighting a hologram? Come on! Like, come on! Oh no! I mean, you saved her from space. Somehow she did not die after being exposed to space. Like void.
I've seen that described as her Mary Poppins moment.
Yeah, but you know, he levitates a bit and dies. Huh? Really? Also, how were the things he gave her material, and he was immaterial? It's just
yes, I did wonder that.
It's so illogical, and it's like it suffers from a huge case of plotitis, where things happen because the plot demands them. So yeah, I mean, like I think for me that a lot of movies and books are great as lessons on how to screw your entire story. Like if you want to destroy it entirely, just do these things. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I do wonder when you're doing a trilogy like that as well. We're swapping directors back and forth, and every director's got their own style.
Yeah.
I think it does work so much better.
To us.
It does work so much better.
Okay.
Yeah, it does work so much better, I think, for stuff like that. If you've got one person at the tiller, you know, because otherwise you've got like the stuff that was set up in the first film. Rian Johnson then went a completely different way in the second film. But now what's going to happen? So I think it's J.J. Abrams, isn't it, back in the helm for the final film. So and he'll probably want to change it all again. So I think that's perhaps where some of the problem lies as well.
Yeah, I think there's a huge problem with movies in Hollywood switching directors while they're filming and then trying to reuse stuff to create a completely different narrative, and it looks stilted and insane and has no logic.
Yeah.
Which wasn't an issue that happened as much in the past. I don't know. I've enjoyed the Dune movies, for example, and I think they're great. I still prefer the books because they have more nuance.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek was a favorite of mine. And then I'm trying to think what else I love this much. I like Dark Matter. I don't know if you've seen the show.
No, I don't know that one.
It's pretty freaking awesome. It's about this group of baddies that wake up with no memories.
Right.
On a ship. And they get into a lot of trouble because they don't know who they are and they don't realize just how bad they are. There are a lot of reveals and a lot of surprises, and it's quite interesting. And the other one is Killjoys, which is also sci-fi, and the main characters are Killjoys, which are a sort of police force, but they're supposed to be super impartial. They get the contract to either bring someone in or kill them, and the only thing that matters is the contract. It doesn't matter who interferes or why. Right. There's also some alien species trying to take over the world, of course, but they're pretty cool. They're kind of kind of dark, kind of interesting, entertaining as they are. Altered Carbon, I think, had some interesting philosophical questions to address.
Yes.
And I also enjoyed a lot the newest original movie from Netflix called Tau.
Okay, I've seen that one. I haven't watched it yet.
It's quite interesting from an AI perspective. I love the AI in the movie, by the way. I thought that was brilliant. It was one of the best movies ever.
Yeah.
I've cried my eyes out. Let's just say that. I cried my eyes out watching it. And if I watch it again, I'll cry again. So that, in a way, I liked How because it's sort of a scary, horror-y movie without jump scares per se.
Right.
Which I enjoy. And the whole idea of AI and how it evolves. I think it was nicely done.
Yeah. Well, Netflix keeps pushing me to watch it, so I'll have to give it a go during the week.
If you liked Altered Carbon, I think you'll like this one too.
Okay. Sure.
Because it's in the same direction of putting a psychological, philosophical twist on a situation. Right. It's not your run-of-the-mill girl trapped in a house or men trapped in a house with an AI trying to get away or trying to communicate with the AI. It's on the same baseline, but then it goes completely elsewhere, and it's interesting.
Okay.
Because we're talking about series, I wanted to say this, that I'm really happy to see sci-fi getting quite a boost in movies, but in books too, and even in gay romance, because you mentioned this, that we used to work with authors writing sci-fi.
Yes.
And my first published gay story was sci-fi. It was Craving Stains. And that was written at a time where sci-fi wasn't doing that well. And I remembered when I was promoting sci-fis, I had the Luxorian Fugitive one.
Oh, yes.
From Mad Ramblings, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed that series immensely.
Yeah.
And
those are back out now,
Sorry?
Those are back out.
I think they are.
He's changed his pen name. It's something like J. Allen Verkamp, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've seen something on Instagram.
I think it's a 9-star press one now.
Yeah, but they were interesting, and I liked Ale Bates ones.
Yes.
Ale Bates being Lindsay Fitzpatrick, who also writes sci-fi-ish paranormal stuff in mainstream genre fiction, and also edited my sci-fi.
Okay.
Yeah, I really love those. But I remember when Luxorian Fugitive came out, I read it before anyone else, obviously. And I was doing the tour, and I was talking to people, and I was telling them, like, you should really try it. It's really cool. You'll like it.
Yes.
And I had a bit of a pushback. People didn't want to review gay sci-fi. And a year after that, it was way better, because the next one came out, and A.L. Bates titles came out, and it was already getting easier. And by 2017, when I released Angel's Feather, it had kind of boomed.
Right.
It really had. It was way easier. And I remember Angel's Feather was in the top 100 LGBT science fiction on Amazon for like weeks after release. And the second one did quite well. So yeah, it's changed a lot. It really changed a lot. And I think it's because of all these movies and TV series.
Yes. Yeah, it's got a new fan base for it.
Yes. But it always happens. New vampire movie will sell vampire books.
Yes.
New sci-fi series will sell sci-fi books, and it's always like this. So I'm really looking forward to a discovery of witches, because I'm working on a witch series. And then I saw the trailer for the TV series, and I was like, oh, this will help.
Well, you know how excited I am about that.
Yeah, I know. I've not read the books, but I've seen the trailer, and I definitely understand why you watched it over and over and over again.
I mean, I was already a fan of the books, so as soon as they said they were going to film it, I was really excited. And then when I saw who they cast, I was thrilled. And not all book fans were, because some book fans had got it into their head they really wanted Richard Armitage in the main role. Now, Richard Armitage, I love Richard Armitage, but he's not how I imagine Matthew. Whereas Matthew Good, who isn't going to play him in the TV series, is exactly how I pictured him from the book. But there's a few people got a bit stroppy that it wasn't Richard Armitage. But I think Matthew Good is going to do an awesome job. Yeah. And the books are brilliant. And I'm hoping the TV series will do well and get to a second series a year, because you'll find it quite interesting. Because in book 2, they time travel back to Elizabethan England.
Oh, nice.
So it's a fantastic series because it blends paranormal with a bit of time travel and historical fiction, and it's very, very good. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about our own works in the sci-fi genre and what we enjoy about writing it.
So, I mean, I'll go first, I guess, because I haven't got that many. And I've actually only written 2 things sci-fi, and one of them I did get the link ready here because I will paste it in the comments, is a free read. So
if it doesn't let you, send it to me and I'll paste it.
Okay, let me have a look. No, it didn't, so I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me and I'll... Yeah, it's really weird, and I can't... There's no setting I can switch to allow people to post links. It's just the way it works.
Okay, Doc. I'll send that through to Alina in a second anyway, but that's a free read. It was just a short story I originally wrote for an anthology that was sci-fi. And once that publisher closed, I just thought I'll make it available as a free read. I'm just trying to log into Facebook as I talk to you. And,
or you can paste it here. You can paste it in the Google chat.
Okay. Where do I do that?
On your left side, like where it says Google. Yeah, there.
I've got it. Yeah.
Yay.
Okay, sent to Alina. So she'll fix that up. And so the only other piece that I've got out that's sci-fi is a sort of robot AI piece called Fire Up My Heart, which is written under my Astridonia pen name because it's MM, and that's from Dream Spinner Press. And I can't remember how the idea for that one came to me because, as I said, I'm not a big sci-fi reader. It might have been after I was watching Ex Machina. When did Ex Machina come out? Who knows? But I just decided to do this AI robot anyway. So the story begins when Fane is a young man. He's on his way home and he finds a robot abandoned in a dumpster and decides to take it home and patch it up. He's not someone who'd usually have the money to buy a robot. So he gets it working, but then suddenly he starts experiencing strange feelings for the robot, and some people from the laboratory come back trying to reclaim their property, which then sparks off a bit of drama. So that's the only one I've written. I had good fun writing it. I enjoyed doing Fane and Joey, but it's probably not a genre that I would rush back to again, simply because I don't feel I'm that well versed in it. It doesn't immediately appeal to me, or it doesn't immediately spring a load of ideas in my mind, perhaps more than appeal. But I certainly enjoyed that one, and who knows what the future will bring. Maybe I'll end up doing some more eventually. But I'll let you talk about yours because you've got a few.
Yeah, my first one was Craving Stains, which is a gay sci-fi and not a romance. Important mention to make because quite a lot of people were a bit cut up about that one because it has an open ending. I never marketed it as romance, but the publisher did for some reason. I did not understand exactly. So that was kind of it was difficult. I mean, people were kind of so confused about it because, like I said at that point, sci-fi wasn't that great of a seller in gay fiction at all. Less so in gay romance. But it was one of those reactions where people either loved it to bits or hated it. There was no middle ground at all for the short story, and it kept going in the same direction when I expanded it into a novella, because I did expand it, but let's be honest, I did not change anything about the ending. I just expanded a bit before it. So the thing that kind of confused people was still there, because they felt like if you didn't tell them exactly what happened, there was no conclusion. There were 2 possible conclusions though, and even to this day, I think I talked about this yesterday on stream, but to this day I have no idea what happens there. It depends on the day. Some days I think it goes one way. Other days I think it goes the other. It's really mood dependent. And after that, I have Angel's Feather here. It's one of my favorite covers.
I do like that cover.
We struggled a lot with what to put on this cover. And I was really worried it wasn't going to do well because it's a good sci-fi cover. It's not a very good gay sci-fi cover because this is gay romance. But it did pretty well. It did well, way better than I expected it when everybody was telling gay sci-fi is a losing battle. And this was a very complicated story to write. So I initially tried to write it for the of Hell and Heaven, of Heaven and Hell, anthology.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be a short story. And I started writing that short story, and 17,000 words in, I thought, well, I can just do it in 2 parts and release the first part in the anthology. But then I talked to the publisher, and they said there's no point. You'd have more to gain if you just release it individually. And then I decided to complete it. But the second part of it was the darker part, so I needed a break. And in between that moment where I needed a break and the moment it got published, I was no longer with my publisher. So that happened. So it kind of postponed things. Because if you remember, in 2016, I had about 6 months where I didn't write a word.
Yes.
The second half of the year was pretty bad in that regard. So then in early 2017, I picked this up again and worked on it. And it was difficult to write the second part. It was so difficult. But I got it done, and it was released in April of 2017. And I can't believe how much of a difference there was between publishing something in 2014-15 when Craving Stains came out, and publishing something in 2017 in the same genre. And what I wouldn't advise other people to do is maybe don't have book 1 be more of a post-apocalyptic dystopian-like book and then move into space opera with the second book. Might be a bit confusing. It worked for me. It really worked well, but it could have gone really bad. And now book 3 should be on pre-order this month, and it will come out in August. And because we were talking about trilogies, this was supposed. It started as a short story. Then I thought of a standalone. Then I was like, no, this is going to be a trilogy, and I decided that before finishing the first book, actually. And now that I'm on book 3, I'm like, I might need a couple more books. At least I never said trilogy anywhere this time. I learned my lesson. Because my first lesson was with Bad Blood, which was supposed to be a trilogy, and it was marketed as the Bad Blood trilogy for so long. And now I have at least 3 more books planned after book 3. So
the trilogy part 2.
To be fair, again, the first 3 books are a complete story arc.
And then you have a second arc for the other 3.
The other 3 or 4, I'm not sure. It will be another cluster of books, let's just say. But I do have more sci-fis planned. I have sci-fi mystery series planned, actually.
Right.
The series name is Post-Scarcity Blues. And this happens all in a post-scarcity society, which I think is a very interesting world to have a detective story in. And I am researching the crap out of it. I would like to take this moment for a brief shout out and lots of thanks to Isaac Arthur. If you're a sci-fi author and you need sci-fi heavy and super scientific videos explaining stuff to you, I definitely recommend his channel. He's an actual scientist, and he's just brilliant. And he has a series on post-scarcity societies. And to be honest, I had to reconsider some things after watching those videos. which I think will work for the better of the story and the series. So yeah, and then we'll see what happens with Flyer Chronicles. Maybe it will stop at 4 or 5 books. Maybe not. At least they're novellas. I mean, they're...
Yes, yeah, it's not like George R. R. Martin, 1,000 words a time.
And to be fair, I published this in April 2017. So in less than a year and a half, you have 3 books already out. And there are no major cliffhangers. The main story in each book is wrapped up pretty nicely at the end. There's kind of an opening for what's going to happen in the next book, obviously, but there's no huge cliffhanger or anything. I only did that once in my life, and probably not going to do it again. That was on my first book ever, by the way. I was courageous at the time. Jesus Christ. Yeah, let's talk a bit about trends and covers in sci-fi. I think it's an interesting genre.
Yeah, and as you've said, it does seem to be picking up quite a lot lately, particularly in LGBT. Yeah. I mean, the covers, like L.V. Lloyd's cover there for a Lunar Affair, is you get quite a few along those lines with the planets in the background. I mean, Neil Stephenson's The Epic Thing that I didn't really like has done similar. And he's, from what I know, he's a bit of a well-known sci-fi author or something. Yeah. Obviously, you do a little bit different with the comedy. And I mean, it's funny because a lot of the Hitchhiker's cover, it pretty doesn't really make any sense. I don't know, the light's crap. I don't know how well you can see that. But it's kind of a bathroom. And then in the mirror, there's this picture of what looks like a sort of sky-based construction vehicle. And that's because the story premise starts off because they're going to bulldoze Earth to build a hyperspace bypass.
Oh, nice.
So that's what that's about. But it's quite funny because that cover wouldn't mean nothing to you unless you've seen or read the book. You know, there's a digital watch here because the digital watches are joked about in the book. They're in a bathroom because of the towel thing. But that's a sort of weird cover to me because it doesn't mean, and it's assuming you already know the book. And I guess because it's a compendium of some of the other stories of all the first 4, they're probably guessing you have read them. But I mean, the planets are definitely big, and certainly with the MM and that, there's a lot of torso action going on as well.
Yes, there are torsos when it's heavier on the romance or erotic romance.
Yeah,
that's why I thought this will be a bit of a gamble because no torsos, and you would never get away with this in contemporary romance. I tried it; it backfired. If you want to write contemporary romance, go with people on the cover. Unless you're super famous, then you can do whatever you want. But I have here some editions of Dune.
Oh, yes.
This is Children of Dune, and I have here in a different edition, obviously, Heretics and Chapter House. Yeah. And 2 books that I bought and never read because I couldn't bring myself to do it. The new books from Herbert's Son.
Okay.
I couldn't. I mean, the covers don't say anything to me, to be honest. But I had them. I bought the first 2, and I was thinking I might read them, but then I couldn't. I love Dune too much, and I don't want to be disappointed. And people who read them were kind of disappointed. Right. And I've noticed, like, I mean, it depends on the subgenre, but Red Rising is pretty much sci-fi, and it has very simple covers. They're more symbolic than anything, and if you didn't know it was sci-fi, you wouldn't be able to tell from the cover. Right. There's a lot of purple and pink going on in cover design, especially in YA sci-fi. And retellings are pretty big. I've read Jane Eyre in Space retelling, the one by Alexa Dunn, who's an author tuber. And it's YA retelling of Jane Eyre, and I was thinking I might not enjoy it. I did enjoy it, but it had some issues. They picked up on, and they were pretty much science related.
Okay.
And there was a bit of a lack of history, and I would like to know why these people are suddenly so prudish.
Right.
I mean, the entire Earth was kind of almost wiped out. Why are they so freaking prudish?
Yeah, shouldn't they be populating, repopulating or something? Yeah.
They're in space. They're kind of caught in orbit. I understand why population control is an issue.
Yes. Yeah.
But at this point in evolution, you can just have everyone take pills. I mean, you can spread them through the air if you want. It doesn't even matter. My next cover will have some purple, but for a different reason. The first cover is reddish, the second one is bluish, and the third one is kind of a combination of the two. So it's kind of, it has some dark purple. Yeah, that's what I've seen in covers. There's kind of like, if you look at the gay sci-fi covers, you can see they can't decide on what kind of covers to go with, because you've got the classic torsos with some sci-fi elements.
Yes.
And then you have the more sci-fi-ish covers.
Yeah, with the ships or the moons or
or something. And Anna Butler has really great covers. Those also have purples and blues and galaxy stones.
Yeah.
But they're great covers. I love them. I think they match the series quite well. And I'm happy to see we're moving on from the bare chests when it's not pure romance. I'm liking that, because you couldn't get away with that before. But for the mainstream sci-fi, I think they're kind of trying. I mean, they're trying to stick to genre-specific requirements. A military sci-fi will look a certain way, like space opera will look a certain way.
Yeah.
I've seen actually I was trying to remember the name of it, but I'll have to search for it and recommend it to you. I've seen an indie kind of sci-fi comedy series which looked really cool, and the covers were done in a really nice way. Like they had speech bubbles with jokes from the characters on the cover, and I thought that was pretty freaking fantastic. And I know the series is doing pretty well, so they're kind of, I mean, the mainstream sci-fi genre is a lot more evolved than the gay sci-fi subgenre. Clearly, I think they're doing just as well as any other genre fiction subgenre. It's all good, and I'm not sure where to place lit RPG here. I'm not sure if we should discuss about it in terms of sci-fi or in terms of fantasy. I think it pretty much depends on the game, because something like Ready Player One, which is kind of lit RPG, would clearly be sci-fi, and others are clearly fantasy, because that's how the worlds are like. But that's doing well, whichever way you want to go. Lit RPG is doing great. So if you want to write that, go right ahead. And I think sci-fi romance obviously is doing well, because romance. But I've seen a lot more military space opera.
Yes, and there's definitely plenty of that.
A bit more into the hard sci-fi coming up just as nicely. And I'm happy to see I'm seeing a lot more women writing that.
Yes.
Which doesn't happen much.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, of the indie authors I know doing it, I can think of more women off the top of my head than men in the gay romance side.
In the gay romance, I mean outside of gay romance. Outside of gay romance, I think there are still quite a lot of men writing really great series and really great sci-fi, and there are some. I mean, for example, to be honest, right now, I would not, if I were to recommend taking Shield, I would not recommend it as gay sci-fi. I'd recommend it as space opera or military sci-fi.
Yeah.
I think it's way beyond the fact that the characters are gay or bisexual.
Yeah, and it's a very slow burn kind of romance in those ones as well. I mean,
yeah,
it didn't really
romance.
take off in a huge way in that first book, which I've only read up to the first book so far. But yeah, I definitely call it a space opera rather than a romance.
Yeah,
I think that one.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm loving that. I'm loving that bit. That it's kind of mainstream with characters who happen, among other things, to also be LGBT.
Yeah.
I think that's nicely done, and I'm enjoying it immensely.
Yeah.
So yeah. What are we talking about next time on Genre Talk?
We haven't picked yet.
Yes, exactly.
So it depends whether you want an intense debate now or whether we want to just surprise everyone next time when we've decided.
No, I was thinking we could discuss it now, so
yep, we can talk
like
it out.
build tension, or maybe even create a poll or something.
I mean, I scribbled down a few what we haven't done yet. So I mean, we haven't talked about stuff like mystery thriller. We haven't done horror. I don't know if it might be nice to have a little classics chat, but obviously we won't be talking about our own works in that. So maybe that's one we do it towards the end of the series, perhaps. As a bit of a round off. We can do sort of classics, modern classics or something as our final one or something.
Yeah.
So do you have a preference? Do you have any other thoughts that I haven't mentioned?
I don't know. Did we cover all the romance genres? I can't remember. I
think so. I mean, we did contemporary, we did historical, we've done fantasy, paranormal. We talked a bit about sci-fi today.
Yeah, so we're kind of on track. So let's go with mystery and thriller next time.
Okie doke.
Because I think we enjoy that more than horror. And
yes.
I mean, I would like to read more horror or watch more horror before we talk about it. I don't think a couple of Sarah's books and a Clive Barker one are enough.
I mean, my horror will be going back in time. I used to read and watch a lot of horror in my really early teens. I don't so much now. So a lot of my stuff will be going back to Stephen King and the like. But
I never gotten into Stephen King, but I did read Frankenstein. So
yes,
that counts. And I watched the Mummy movies, I think. Not the recent one though.
Oh no. No.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get darker and darker because we've talked a bit about darker sci-fi, so we can go into mystery and thriller.
Yep.
And then move on to horror. Because I think mystery and thriller will be fun, especially when it comes to books and movies.
Yes, there's a few we can talk about there.
And TV series, because then we can go back to our love for vampires with Moonlight and stuff like that.
Yes, that's true. Very true.
So yeah. Anything you would like to promote this week, Nicki? This month, I mean, week, Sunday, whatever. So yeah.
Yep, I think we're good. So we will see you.
No, I was asking if there's anything you'd like to promote this week.
Oh, sorry, your sound cut out then, and I only sort of got like a few words at the end. I've got a book coming out this month, so that one is Beastly Businessman and Guitar Gods. So not sci-fi, contemporary romance, but retellings of fairy tales and myths. So that one's with 9 Star Press on the 23rd of July.
Which I should say, for full disclosure, I've read in its previous form and it was freaking brilliant. You should read it. It's fun.
Thank you. It hasn't changed much. There's not been major edit changes. This is a re-release from a publisher closure. So it's only just been a basic little typo check kind of edit. So it's pretty much the same. If you did read it before, there's nothing new. But if you haven't read it, hope you'll check it out. And there'll be stuff coming on my channel in the next few weeks and on my other social media. So we'll keep you posted on that. And I have an August release too, but I will tell you about that one next time.
Yay. I'm really looking forward to your August release.
Good.
the way.
Hopefully you'll like it. Hopefully you'll like it. What about you, Alina? You got anything?
Yeah, I've got a lot of price promotions going on right now. Starting today for this week, gaming and IRL boss fights is part of a Kindle Kanban deal, and it's 99 cents on Amazon US and UK. So if you like gaming and YouTube and things like that with a dose of gay romance, you should definitely pick it up. I will link it in the description post stream, because I think I might have added it already, but we all know how together and everything is. Oh, I actually have it. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Oh, yes, you do. You put it on there.
By the way, if you have a pre-order for your book, send it over and I'll pop it in the description.
Oh, yeah, will do.
And I also am part of the Smashwords summer sale. And most of my books are between 75% and 25% off on Smashwords. I've added 4 new books to wide distribution yesterday and today, and that's the entire Lover's Journey series. All the 3 books are heavily discounted, and I've also added the box set with the 3 of them included. That's also discounted, so go check them out on Smashwords. And speaking of sci-fi, Angel's Feather is 50% off on Smashwords, and Elixir of Light is, oh my God, don't do that, also discounted. So I'm great. And yeah, it's also discounted. Check them out. The sale is on for the entire month of July, so you have time, no rush. But buy the books. buy all our books so we can keep writing and make videos for you guys. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this genre talk. I'm definitely looking forward to mystery next time, and hopefully Claire will be with us in the comments, because she's the most prolific mystery writer in our AuthorTube group. So
have some stuff to add. Yep.
Yeah, she'll definitely have some cool stuff to add to the mix. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for being with us here. I know we're streaming at a pretty weird time, but if you're watching this post-fact, share, comment, like, and if you have any questions for the next stream on mysteries and thrillers and that sort of thing, do leave them in the comment section, and we'll address them next time, which will be sometime in August. We'll get back to you with the date. And by the way, important part, the next one will be on Nicki's channel. Her channel is linked down below, by the way. Go and give her tons of likes and subscribe, because she posts a lot of wonderful videos.
Yes, love me, love me.
Oh, there was a song I used to listen while going to school with that exact sentiment. Garbage? Was it garbage? No, it wasn't Garbage. I can't remember who the band was, but anyway,
I'll come to you when you go to bed and are trying to sleep later.
Yes. Basically, yes, that's how things happen. So have a lovely Sunday, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye. Everyone. See you soon.